Hello, this is Mr. Huff, and I wanted to go through some of the pictures that I took of the historic gym during renovation for those of you that missed the tour, just so you could get a feel for what it was like. So this is one of the first spaces we reviewed this or got to see. You can see there's some leftovers here of the original ceiling, but underneath the ceiling we noticed that this wood up here is used. This is recycled lumber back from the 50s when the building was originally built. And so they just kind of said, hey, I have some old wood here. You can see like this has obviously been part of something else. And they just kind of brought stuff and put it all together. A little bit of history on the building. It was originally a military building in Bastrop, Texas. It was deconstructed and delivered to Midlothian and then reconstructed. And during that reconstruction, this section was built with a lot of leftover lumber from the community. So as far as what this room used to be, it used to be the band hall for the high school. It is just a little bit larger than the computer lab you guys work in every day. So it would have been pretty crowded and pretty loud in there. So the plan for this room is the ceiling and most of the walls are going to be covered with drywall and wainscoting. But this wall, because they want to show some of how that original wood was, this wall will be retained as an accent wall in their design. So in this notice, you can see the modern HVAC is being added here, and we see some electrical being pulled through here, and this is in like a sealed wire casing, so it's wire inside a metal casing, and they're just drilling holes through these joists here and pulling that through. So that's enough on that. This is an example of a mechanical room. This is in that same room we just saw. It used to be a storage closet. Now it's going to have this heating and air conditioning unit right here, and this will provide temperature control for the rooms that it's connected to. So literally those can be just like a closet size. It used to be the women's bathroom. One of the reasons that this building went into disuse is the original septic systems, the sanitary sewer was made of cast iron, and the cast iron collapsed, and you can see where the cast iron used to be. So they've had to go in and redo this plumbing. So this is one of the problems with slab on grade construction is if you have a plumbing issue, you have to jackhammer all that stuff up, do your repairs, and then go in and put wire mesh and then concrete back in place. So you can see here, these are the drains that are being replaced. So these will be stalls in the women's restroom. We'll have a handicap stall and then 3 regular stalls here. But this is a bathroom renovation in progress. Here is in the same room. You can see this is where the lavatories are going to be. So there will be 2 sinks. You can see the hot water and cold water. This one was used as a faucet for a while. And then the drain right here. So that's that space right now. So this is going to be made into the women's restroom. One of the things that we noticed is the original insulation in the building. People used what they had on hand. These are hulls from cottonseed processing. So this would have been the leftovers of the cotton gin process. So they just took that stuff and filled the walls up with it for insulation. So that's a renewable resource there. Some of the issues with this would be if it ever got wet, you're going to have some mold issues, but it's been in place since the 50s for decades, and there it is. It still works as an insulation. So it used to be the cafeteria, and we just have a picture of the ceiling here. I wanted to show you. We see that same kind of, let's use old wood, whatever you have, and then they covered it up with this material here to make it look polished. But you can see here they're adding in modern ventilation. Before it had units that just fit in the windows and they would just blow into the room. So this is going to be a central heating and air conditioning system. And this will be a large meeting room. So it used to be a cafeteria, now it's going to be a meeting room. One of the concerns in this room is this tile. So the tile on the floor is actually made of asbestos. In the 50s, a lot of building materials were made of asbestos, and now they've figured out that it is a health hazard to have that around. So as long as it's undisturbed, it's not a problem. But if you were to go in and try to chip this out, it's going to release a lot of asbestos dust, and that's the dangerous portion. So to get this removed, you would have to bring in people in hazmat suits, and they would have to bag up all the waste and dispose of it properly. Another thing you can do is if you seal it up, it's not a problem. So what they're planning on doing is they'll have a floor company come in, and they're going to lay thin set concrete across this, and then they'll put in regular tile like you see in the hallway here where we have our classes. So they'll cover that up so there won't be any risk of exposure to asbestos because it will be sealed. This is in that same room, just showing you the detail here. You can see that this line was a little zigzaggy here, but they were just using like scrap wood. Again, you can see they're pulling in new electrical here. So this is an example of a drop ceiling being put in place. Remember, in our structure, you have interior walls that are 14 feet or 12 feet high, and they don't go all the way to the ceiling. What we're going to be using is a drop ceiling system like this. So they put this lightweight metal frame in, and then that lets you run things like your HVAC, these pipes panels, or this portion here. This is how hot air and cold air is moved through the space. Also, you get to put in trofer lights like these. And you can see that it's just hung from the ceiling with wires. They just get this level in the room, and then they fill it in with the conduit for new electrical, your HVAC access, network lines, that sort of thing, and then they put the lights in this system. So here's another image of that. You can see the lights here, the HVAC system. So everything above this line is going to be unfinished and hidden by the tiles that they put in there. And you can also see here some electrical lines here that run above that drop ceiling. This is underneath the bleachers in the gymnasium. This would have been used for storage. There are no plans to renovate this in this phase. Perhaps in the future they'll turn some of this into usable space. But right now it's just going to be a closet. But you can see what it looks like underneath the stage. So you can see this is underneath the bleachers. This would have been exposed somewhere, so it's been painted, but this is all unexposed, so no one really ever finished that out. We were noticing that this toilet, was one of the restrooms in what will become a catering kitchen. But we noticed that right here, when they added the plumbing after the building was built, so they ran the pipes inside the walls or inside the rooms, not inside the walls, and certainly not under the floor. So this is how water is delivered through that area, is piping on the wall. We thought that was interesting. This is the way you get to the gymnasium. There are two of these, and you have these little 3 steps here, little short staircase. One of the things is it's not handicap accessible, so it's not universally designed. One of the problems that we'll have to solve is how do you add a ramp that goes up 3 feet, and or do you put in a wheelchair elevator that can raise the wheelchair up from the floor to this floor? So that's one of the things you would need to solve in your design. If you have a space like this, you're going to see something similar to this in the green roof access, so you'll have to solve the same problem in your design. So this is the money shot. This is Lamella Construction, and you can see here how this is built. There's not a board in here that's over 14 feet long. And this is how the entire structure is made. All of this is wooden. It takes a lot of skill to produce something like this. And you can't see it in this picture, but there is a steel cable that runs across right here. And that's where all these forces end up going. It's into that steel cable. If that steel cable is cut, this whole system is going to fall. But this is labor intensive to put together, and it's also skilled labor. So that's why they don't do this today. Here's a close-up picture of that cable. You can see it's a piece of steel and another piece of steel, and it has these turnbuckles on it so they can adjust the tension. So this piece of metal runs from one side of the gym to the other, and that's what holds the ceiling up. So again, if those fail, it would be a bad day. But that is very thick steel, and it's not going to fail. So here's a picture of the gym itself. Notice the floor is kind of orange. And the boards in this floor are pine. They should be bright yellow or white. And the reason it's orange is this is years and years and years of varnish being applied to this surface. And because of that, it's changed colors. It is really dusty. This was used as storage for a while, and it hasn't been cleaned. So they are going to have this stripped down and refinished, and so it will look almost white when they're done, and then they're going to put in the modern logos for Midlothian ISD. So this is an inside picture of the gym and the bleachers. Here's the bleachers. Here's another interesting thing you have to be careful of in old buildings. This paint is leaded paint, so it actually has lead in it, and because of that, it's a hazard. And it's similar to asbestos. You can't just go in and start sanding that off and making it like down to the wood. If you do, you have to have people in hazmat suits come and do that, and they have to collect the sawdust and everything from that process and dispose of it properly. Another acceptable way to handle this is put a nice thick coat of new paint on top of it, functionally sealing up the lead paint that's on these bleachers right now. One of the things too that we talked about is this is the system for turning the lights off and on in the gym right now. So it's just regular household switches. A lot of the electrical system in this building is no longer used and cannot be made code. They can't bring it up to code. So in situations like this where the electrical is not safe to use as it is, they're going to just cut the wires. They leave that stuff in place, and they just add a new system alongside it. And that's happening in a lot of places in this building. A lot of the original wiring is just going to be left in the walls. It's not going to be connected to anything. They're going to run a new modern system alongside it or on top of it. If they can remove it, they will, but a lot of times you just kind of cut it and leave it there. It's not connected to anything. It's not doing anything. It's not dangerous, so you're just replacing it with something new and useful. But that's an example of what the electrical system looks like that's currently there. That will be replaced with something much more elegant. Again, here's a nice shot of the gym, kind of a broad view, and so you can kind of get a feel for the space. And here's a close-up of the floor. These boards are very narrow compared to modern gymnasium floor building, and it's on pier and beam, so that means that it's not on top of concrete. It's actually on a wooden structure. It has a really different feel, and they don't make gymnasium floors like this anymore, not with the narrow boards like this. This is a picture of one of the dressing rooms, so you can see how this is finished out. This is underneath the bleachers. In the shower room, they have the showers on this wall, so they're really short, so they would hit most people kind of in the chest and stomach instead of on top of your head. So it's kind of cramped under here, but this is what the spaces look like under the bleachers where they've been finished. They don't plan on doing any renovations on this in this phase, perhaps in the future. All right, so that's just a real quick rundown of the old gym and the tour that we took yesterday. It's not everything we talked about, but it should give you a sense for what's going on in there. All right, thank you for watching.